Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Tom Spark. Welcome back to another video. Today I'm making a video I saw on YouTube that's kind of going somewhat viral on Reddit, and that's called What DeleteMe and Incogni Aren't Telling You. So today I have a migraine, so I'm going to be trying to be as high energy as possibly as I can. But in this video, I just want to discuss my kind of response to this video. So this video makes some pretty good points, and I think some are fair, and I think some are kind of inflated. So I'm going to be running through that in this video. So guys, the first point this guy makes in this video is that one reason you shouldn't use Incogni and services like DeleteMe is that these services really do inflate their numbers. And honestly, this guy is pretty spot on with this one. In fact, I made a video about DeleteMe recently where it turns out that you actually have to pay extra that's not really disclosed on its website to get the full amount of those services removed, up to like 750 different websites. So you have to actually pay a premium plan when you sign up. And that's one reason I don't recommend DeleteMe on the channel. I'm not sure exactly if this guy mentioned DeleteMe specifically in that context with that pricing scheme. I don't even know if he got that far into it. But more specifically, his points kind of focus on the fact that some of these services kind of list like every single removal of your data from these websites as a data point to be removed. But in my experience, that's not exactly how it's worked. Usually these websites will say around 150 to 200 removals, and that does usually mean around that many websites. Now, of course, these websites have been improving and increasing the amount of websites removed. I think specifically the most annoying thing is when stuff like DeleteMe offers 750 websites, but in reality around 150 is a pretty good amount. Just adding a bigger number is kind of arbitrary at the end of the day, in my opinion. So that's one of the big points of this video, is that these services do inflated metrics, and I think in my opinion it kind of really depends on each individual service. But one of his biggest points too is that these services do have a limited scope of deletion. And this is true to some extent. He kind of focuses on this video in these services kind of remove information from kind of public data broker websites like Spokeo, White Pages, and some of the other things. But these services can actually address marketing data brokers, financial and credit bureaus, risk mitigation services, personal health data brokers, and a lot of other different things that don't publicly display information as visibly. Now, the way I've kind of discussed these services, always recommended them on my channel specifically, is they're kind of more like anti-dox tools. For example, you don't really want people being able to publicly search for you on the internet to find your address and stuff like that. That's why I've always recommended these tools as excellent tools to prevent people doxing you, because they're more of like a personal data removal kind of thing for personal people trying to find you. It kind of sucks because at the end of the day, you can't really remove businesses from knowing things about you, because a lot of the information they have about you is actually stuff like cookies and these various other data metrics that these websites probably aren't going to remove. It's kind of like with Facebook. You can't really get it to fully remove everything about you, because in reality, you'd have to go to their data center and plant a TNT in order to delete that data. Really, they kind of store that data for perpetuity. So these services, at the end of the day, they're not going to fix everything, but what they do is remove your information from websites so people can't as easily find it. And I do think that is a useful tool, primarily for anti-doxing. You're never going to be able to find a tool that will actually remove your information completely from the internet. So I do think this poster kind of does have unrealistic expectations, but there could be criticism for sure that these services maybe should tone down some of their advertising and be more focused on what they can actually do and why you should use them. But I've always been pretty transparent on why I recommend them here on my channel. Some of the points mentioned in this video that I think are important is he does kind of talk about the ownership of various tools, specifically Incogni. And I've touched on that recently on my channel. Is that some of the actual view channels here on YouTube are actually made by Cybernews, VPN Pro, and honestly some other channels maybe as well that do have investments from Nord Media. I think this is a big problem with reviews, and I don't think it really should be allowed, to be honest. And some of these services do have disclosures, or the review platforms do have disclosures in the descriptions now, but I don't know if that was always the case. Maybe I didn't notice, although I'm pretty good about noticing that kind of thing. But I honestly don't think these services should own review sites, and that's why services or more like review platforms like mine are even more important, because I do these reviews independently and I don't have any investment ties to Nord Media. So I actually think the ownership claims with Surfshark owning Incogni isn't really even an issue, because I think it's fine that companies make other products to interest their consumers. But I do think having some reviews and stuff like that on YouTube that are not legit reviewing Incogni, in my opinion, if they have investments to these companies, shouldn't be a thing. Fortunately, my review right now for Incogni is ranking number 2 on YouTube, and I am not owned by Nord Investments or Nord Media. So at least there's that. This video also does make some claims about there being Reddit shills and stuff like that for Incogni, and that's certainly possible, and this certainly happens for almost every company. But that said, I do own reddit.com/r/Incogni, so at least you know this main subreddit for Incogni is independently owned and not made by Nord Media or any of these other ties to these companies. So overall, guys, I think this guy made some good points in his video. I think that he's right that these companies that own Incogni do have some reviews on YouTube that are kind of sketchy in my opinion. I do also think that these services could kind of make their services more transparent on what they can and can't do. I do think that's a good point. He does make a point about some of these services having inflated removals, and I also think that's a good point. But at the same time, this video does kind of make these services seem unnecessary and not worthwhile, which I don't think is a good point, because at the end of the day, these services really all they do is provide convenience. They just make it so you don't have to go around 80 to maybe 200 different websites for variations of Spokio, so people can find your information and dox you once they have your real life name. And that's the main purpose of these services. All right, guys, thanks for checking out this one. If you like my objective take on it, feel free to use any of my links in the description down below with some of my affiliates. On my channel, I don't really do sponsors, so every product I use and endorse down in the description down below are things I personally use and recommend and have reviewed myself. Those affiliate links will get you discounts, and I'll see you again very soon.